What's the word, Harrisburg? My name is Matt Maisel. We are in the middle of the holiday season and all the festive merriment that comes with it, and also a lot of toy talk, a lot of other serious conversations we need to have as parents as well. Joining me now, person who is an expert in everything pediatrics, everything trauma related. Again, these are serious conversations. Amy Bollinger from Penn State Health. Thank you so much, Amy, for joining us once again.
Hi, Matt. Thanks for having us.
Friend of the show. Yes, friend of the show. We love having you. We bring in Penn State Health, the whole family.
Absolutely.
So we have this conversation every year, and it's important to repeat.
Yeah.
Because you can't hammer it home enough when you're talking about the safety aspect of the toys, both adult toys and kid toys. And when I mean by that, I mean we're talking ATVs,
Sure.
snowblowers. These
Yep.
are gifts that mom and dad are getting. We're talking about magnets. We're talking about small choking hazards for kids.
For sure.
When you get to this time of year in your field, what do you try to impart on parents the most?
Sure. We try to impart just making good, safe decisions for our children, making good, safe decisions for ourselves. It's a really crazy, busy time of year, and it's very easy to cut corners or to just want to get it done, right? Get our to-do list done and checked off and move on to the next thing. But when we do that, sometimes we run the risk of seeing the people we love and care about getting hurt.
When we've had this conversation, you and I, in the past, because I want to go chronologically.
Sure.
Before you get any toys, there's one thing which you taught me years ago is the best thing to do around this time of year. You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
It's the Great Holiday Toy Purge.
Yes.
Explain what the Great Holiday Toy Purge is.
So it's such a dumb name. I don't know where we dreamed it up, my ex-husband and I. But every year we would put the kids to bed about 3 weeks before Christmas, and we would go down to the basement, which is where they played with their toys, and go into this closet that was floor to 2 feet deep of broken parts, broken pieces, toys, stuffed animals, board games, everything. And we'd clean it out, but we'd also start looking at the toys to be sure they weren't broken, they were complete, they didn't have sharp parts, wires hanging out. You know, ideally we probably should have done it more than once a year, but we got rid of toys that were no longer serving our family.
And the reason to do this is it's not just for here's a chance to clean the house.
Sure.
But you mentioned the broken toys and the dangers that broken toys could have.
Absolutely. So we would find toys that had broken parts and pieces. We got rid of them because we didn't want our kids to be hurt while they were playing throughout that next year. So by that I mean toys, maybe a toy that was blocks and bricks or something, but the blocks and bricks were cracked or broken in two. And so small parts and pieces. Small children explore their world by putting everything in their mouth. Anyone who's ever had a small child or toddler knows they're going to grab something and shove it in their mouth when maybe they shouldn't. So we wanted to get rid of those broken pieces that were tiny that could have cut them, they could have swallowed, they could have choked on, something like that. So we got rid of those things.
So the first time we had this conversation, I think, was December of 2020.
Yeah.
My daughter was not even a year old at that point. So the idea of going through the toy room, and my son was 3 years old, 3.5 years old. And so my daughter is crawling around right in that prime area where she's popping things in her mouth.
Yeah.
My son he's 6 years old. He still puts bleep in his mouth. And
isn't it fun? Yeah.
Less of a choking concern for him.
Yeah.
It's just whatever. I digress. But when you mentioned that to me initially, it was like this light bulb moment. And you go through, after they go to bed, you take a giant trash bag and you go to town.
Yes.
And 9 out of 10 things that you throw away, they don't even realize.
They don't know it's gone, but if you include them in the decision making, they won't want to part with anything. Every toy you bring forward will be their favorite toy, and it will just be drama and conflict. So we waited, and we did it after they went to bed because we wanted to be sure we did it with their best interests at heart. If they hadn't played with a toy for 2.5 years, maybe we could donate it. They're not going to miss it. They don't know it's gone. If it's broken or not safe, it was getting thrown away.
So basically, if you're like my family and Coco Melon got you through part of the pandemic to the
Yes.
point where you had to get them a Coco Melon toy for Christmas 2020. It's time to throw the Coco Melon toy away.
Yeah,
Just
probably.
just get
Yep.
it off the books.
Yep.
But it's like that for a lot of toys too, and
Sure.
it works. It works because then you find out once you get this new influx of toys for Hanukkah and Christmas, you have all this space that
Right.
suddenly didn't exist.
There's
before.
a carpet under the,
Right,
the
exactly.
3 feet of toys that are in that room, right?
When you're talking about new toys, obviously the ones that you want to be most careful of are the smallest ones.
Yeah.
I would imagine.
So most toys come with on the label of the box or in the packaging an age range or a not for children under the age of, and then whatever that age is. That is not a statement on your child's intelligence, right? That is not at all a statement on how smart or unsmart our children are. That is a developmental guideline.
I'm sorry. my son, I'm going to keep referencing
Sure.
my son. He will see a game. He will know how to play a game that's for 8 and over.
Sure.
And it's like,
He's
you're
probably
6 years old. You're very smart, but that's not why.
That's not the point.
Yeah.
It's about developmental capability, right? So especially for younger children, because some games have small parts and pieces or have cords or something that may not be safe for them. That's why those guidelines and those age ranges are placed on the games. It's a developmental thing, developmental skills.
Don't put the sorry game piece in your mouth.
Correct.
Because next thing you know, you swallow it and it becomes a choking
It
hazard.
can, 100%.
I think you told me before, use a toilet roll
Yes.
paper.
Toilet paper roll,
Yes.
like the cardboard part
Yes.
of the toilet paper roll or the paper towel roll. And if that toy can fit down easily through that toilet paper roll, it can be choked upon by children, especially under the age of 4.
There you go.
Yeah.
What are some of the, specifically?
Sure.
What are toys that not parents should stay away from? Because we don't want to. We don't want this to become a thing where we're telling you what not to get
Correct.
your kids. But just if you're going to get this as part of a gift, be extra vigilant.
Be wary, be aware, know what the risks are, and then you can make the best decision for your family, right? For your loved ones. So the big one this year are water beads.
I've never heard of this.
So water beads are small, tiny, they look like colored sprinkles that you might put on candy or might put on ice cream or put on something. They're tiny, they're round, and they're brightly colored. They look like, to me, they look like hard pieces of plastic. When you pour them in the tub, they expand.
They're tub, okay.
So they're tub toys. You pour them in the tub, and then they expand and become almost like these rubbery bubbles that are brightly colored that you could play with in the bathtub. Problem is, kids mistake those hard-coated, the toy itself for candy. They ingest them. When they get into the small intestine, they expand, just like they do in the tub. And so they expand, and they completely block off the small bowel or large intestine, and those kids need surgery. It's happened 8,000 times. 8,000 kids have gone to the emergency department for water bead related injuries in the last 5 years.
And at no point did anyone be like, this is a red flag.
So here's something that's really funny. So this afternoon, before I came here to film this with you, I got an alert, a safety alert from safekids.org, that alerted us to the fact that a very large online retailer yesterday announced they were pulling them, that you won't be able to order them. So it is a concern. And unfortunately, I mean, they're fun. If your eyes locked on your child, within arm's reach of your child, and you're really hyper vigilant, they can be a great fun activity in the tub, but they can also have some very serious consequences.
But even then, like, how often kids in a bathtub are opening up their mouths and
Right.
and just even inadvertently
Correct.
taking water into their mouth.
That's
and
the
then
danger.
And then
Yeah.
next thing you know,
In an instant.
I know magnets is always
Yeah.
something kids like having fun with magnets.
Right.
Magnets can be fun, all that stuff. But you put one of those, you swallow one of those, and the damage is real.
And the bigger issue becomes if you swallow a couple of them, because if you have a magnet here and a magnet here, I swallow them. They go down into my esophagus, into my stomach, into my small intestine, and then they can hook together. They can connect to one another on opposite sides of a bowel wall. So if I have my small intestine, I can have a magnet here and a magnet here, and they're hooking together, and in between is part of my small bowel. And that has to be removed. Part of the small bowel has to be removed, and that's a surgical procedure that a child has to go through an operation, anesthesia, recovery, pain. You know, it's traumatizing to the whole family.
Those are the smaller toys.
Yes.
Even the bigger gifts.
Sure.
We're talking about bicycles.
Yep.
I mean, listen, my son's not going to be watching this, so I could say we're getting our son, he's 6 years old, his
Yes.
first real bicycle.
That's
he
great.
has a helmet, and that's great and all, but when you go on to Amazon or Target or even the stores, the helmets don't come with the bikes. You got to buy it separately.
They don't, and you have to. So we talk about bikes, scooters, skateboards, anything with wheels, anything with wheels. And then we talk about our winter fun activities, skiing, snowboarding, sledding. You know, think about those things. We used to get on a sled and we would go down a hill. It felt like 100 miles an hour and hopefully come to a stop before we hit a pole or a tree or ran out in the street and got hit by a car. But those things happen. And, you know, if you're going to buy the bike, if you're going to buy the scooter and the skateboard, you've got to buy the safety equipment that goes with it. A helmet costs $15 to $17 at a local retailer. You know, buy the helmet, buy the elbow pads, the knee pads, the wrist guards, all those protective things, because kids are going to fall and break their bones.
And then hoverboards. We talk about hoverboards and
yeah.
the fire dangers. I mean,
For real.
We've had
That's a real thing.
conversations nonstop with Chief Enterline about the dangers. I mean, there were situations in this city
Yeah.
where a hoverboard caused,
Yep.
you know, a fire where people died.
Absolutely.
And that is something where, yeah, the hoverboard in of itself can be really cool, but you plug it into an outlet and it explodes, there goes your curtains and there goes your house.
And plug it in at night before you go to bed, and then it's on a different level of the house. You're sleeping on another level, and that hoverboard charging, that lithium battery overheats, it catches the curtains, it catches the upholstery of a piece of furniture on fire, and you're sound asleep, waking up to hopefully your smoke detector going off.
Right.
You know, that's another thing we could talk about. But you're waking up to chaos, crisis, get the kids out. What do I have to do? How do I escape? It's awful.
And again, we're not saying don't get these gifts.
Right.
We just want you to be aware of the
potential
damages and the consequences that could come with it if you're not careful.
Right. Charge your hoverboard when everyone's awake and can pay attention to it. Unplug it before you go to bed at night. Be aware. Know what those risks are. Smoke detectors. Check to make sure the batteries work. Check them today. When you see this, stop, push pause, and go check your smoke detectors and make sure they work. Change the batteries. Don't assume that the batteries are working.
Most of your career was dealing with pediatric-related stuff. More recently, you've transitioned over to dealing with a lot more adult-related trauma. When you talk about the holiday season, you talk about parties, you talk about people having a good time, outdoor adventure-related activities.
Sure.
What is it you see more than anything else when you're in the hospital these days?
Sure. So in the 2 weeks leading up to the main holiday season, you know, Hanukkah, Christmas, New Year's, we see a lot of driving while impaired. We see a spike in our impaired driving statistics. And people want to go out and spend time with their loved ones, their family, their friends, their coworkers. We want people to do that. You know, kids are coming home from college. They want to reconnect with their high school buddies. That's important. You know, we want the people to have a good time. The issue becomes if you are driving while impaired. And impairment is one of three things. Driving with alcohol on board. You know, we drank a bunch of alcohol, then got behind the wheel of a car. Driving while on prescription medication that clearly states you should not operate heavy machinery. A car is 2,000 pounds. That qualifies as heavy machinery. Or then taking a medication that interacts with alcohol. So you might only drink a drink, but now you've had this bad interaction that renders you incapable of safely operating a car or truck. So that's what we're talking about. I'm not I'm not saying don't ever drink a glass of wine when you go out with your friends. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is if you are going to go out and you're going to drink with your friends, make arrangements before you go out. How am I going to get home safely? Am I going to hire a rideshare company, Uber or Lyft, or call a local cab company? Am I going to have a friend who I know is going to be around that, hey, if I drink too much, I'm not safe to drive home. Can you come get me? As a parent of a college kid who's home, who walks all over campus to go to his friends' parties, he's home now and he's driving his car. So we're having those uncomfortable conversations. Do I want to get out of bed at 2 in the morning to go pick him up? No.
But you will.
But I will, because I'd rather that than get a call that he's in the trauma bay being resuscitated. That's not a call I want. I don't want the other one either. We're going to have a big conversation the next morning when I'm not tired and cranky, but he's going to be safe and alive.
Yeah. Better to have that in the comfort of your living room than in a hospital bed.
Absolutely.
Have you had to have the conversation with him about things like ATVs and snowblowers, or is he not at that stage yet?
He's not there yet. He works a lot when he's home on break. He works for a company, and he works doubles to try to make as much money as he can. He has a pretty solid work ethic. But snowblowers, for sure, that's another thing that we see. What happens is, as people are using their snowblowers, the ice in the blades the snow gets frozen and becomes these chunks of ice. So the blade freezes and doesn't move, and people are in a hurry. So they might take a stick or they might take their boot and try to kick the ice to dislodge it. And when that happens, and this is gross, but when it happens, their hand gets pulled in or their foot gets pulled in, and those blades are rotating 1,000 times a second, right? So then they get really severe lacerations to their hands, their feet. It's a mess. It's bad.
You see that a lot?
Especially, I get every snowstorm, Matt. Like every first snow of the season, we will see patients in the emergency department who have severe lacerations with fingers and toes because they were out using their snowblower. What we say, there's a simple fix for this. Turn it off.
Save a hand, use a shovel.
Save a hand, turn it off. Turn the machine off, dislodge the frozen whatever, then come back around to the back of the snowblower, turn it on, and continue. But we're in a rush. We want to get it done. It's cold. We don't want to be outside. Those kind of things. If we slow down and we do those safe, take 2 extra seconds to do what's safe, we're going to, continue on with all of our fingers and all of our toes.
ATV safety. I just want to quickly touch on that as well.
So this time of year, snowmobiles, ATVs, it's fun to be out in the woods. It's fun to be out in the middle of nowhere, ride an ATV, ride a snowblower, but you got to know the land. So if it's snow covered, you are not going to see where the ditches are, where the big rocks are that are covered. You're not going to see the thin fencing that can be severely damaging if you're out riding at nighttime, especially. You don't see those fence lines, and you can drive through them, get stuck in them, get severely injured. So just knowing where you're riding, going with a buddy, making sure people know where you are, taking your phone with you, even if you don't want to use it while you're out, but taking the phone so people can ping it if they are trying to locate you.
Realize that after all this, we say Merry Christmas,
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
Holidays, and understanding that has very much other than that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln sort of connotation to it?
Yeah, for real.
But these are real things that you see on a daily basis, and as much as we love Amy, we don't want anyone to see her in the hospital.
No.
At any time.
Right.
So take advice of some of these tips that Amy provided, and you too will have a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Amy, we really appreciate your time joining us on WHBG Channel 20.
Thanks. Thrilled to be here as always, and looking forward to spending more time talking about safety things.
Yes, it is super important. As down as it can feel, it is really, really important. Thank you.
For sure. Thanks.
And that is the word Harrisburg. Thank you so much for joining us here on WHBG Channel 20. We won't see you until the new year, and possibly some new digs over at the studio. We'll catch you then.